let's talk football. All right, now the NFL regular season is finally over. I know it was really last week, but I just had to sit back and think about some things. We had a decently exciting season this year. Couple surprise teams, couple surprise players. Rookies being as good as they are. Man, we've had a lot to talk about. So let's get started. Um, there were some rookies this year, man. I can't remember a rookie class that just gave such bona fide future stars like year one like this. I know we've seen even the Saints had a rookie class where every player was damn near one of those guys, but that was like 2017. I can't remember the last year where we've had as many QBs as we've had, be future starters. Jane Daniels and Bo Nix turn around their franchises. There's just been a lot this year, man. Brock Bowers breaking the record. Malik Neighbors going as crazy as he did. Brian Thomas Jr. Man, there's a lot of players this year who had fantastic years, spectacular. You got a bunch of coaches fired. A bunch of coaches gonna get hired now. It's a little bit more exciting than I like to give it credit for. But let's discuss some of these things. Let's start out with my coaching predictions. As we all know, I got a list here of the teams who need a coach. It starts with the Bears, the Pats, the Jaguars, the Raiders, the Saints, and the Jets. And I personally think that the Bengals will fire their coach. I think the Bengals will and should fire their coach with such hot commodities out there right now. You go get you a bench. Let me not even start. I have a prediction. I have my predictions on who each team will pick up. I actually gave two options for each team. I can explain a bit of what each coach brings to each team and why I think they deserve to be hired by the franchise. But let's go. I think the Bears hire either Arthur Smith or Pete Carroll. I don't know how excited Bears fans will be by that. I don't know how excited Bears fans will be by either of those hirings, but I think the Bears need a solidified professional head coach, one that doesn't need a couple years to adjust, one that can come in, he can lead these men, because that's a bunch over there that needs to be led. Caleb Williams needs to be told, hey, get out the limelight for a minute. I'm the coach. You guys aren't in the media. They need a leader. They need a real leader. Pete Carroll, he's been through the ranks. He's won a Super Bowl. I think that's the best coach for him. He's not going to bring like the most crazy offense or the craziest defense, even though he's had years. But, he's kind of leaned on his coordinators a bit. But what he has shown is that he can lead a team to being a playoff team. He can coach a rookie quarterback. In this case, it'll be Caleb Williams in his second year. He can coach a guy that's young and get the most out of his team, whether that's through the air or on the ground. Arthur Smith, he didn't have the greatest years with I'm pretty sure it was the Falcons. Yep. He was the head coach for the Falcons and currently is the head coach the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. He made Justin Fields work and he made Russell Wilson work slightly. I think Russell's cooked. But that team went 10-7 this year with two average quarterbacks. Justin Fields isn't anything special, and Russell Wilson isn't anything special yet. He got what he could out of those guys. And again, he's a tough minded guy. He has a lot of experience. And I also think I think he would be the wrong decision to make But I also think that's a Bears decision to make, and I honestly think they would hire him before they hire Pete Carroll. But I think they should go Pete Carroll. The Pats, I think it's 100% Mike Vrabel. He fits the Pats. Um, I believe he brings exactly what they expected out of Gerard Mayo. A football guy, tough nose, one of those types, like a Dan Campbell type. Um, I think Mike Vrabel is definitely probably the number one candidate on their list, but I also think Ben Johnson will work over there. Lots of cap flexibility. They've shown to let the coach make a lot of decisions, and I think Ben Johnson wants to go somewhere where he can make a lot of decisions. Young quarterback, fourth pick in the draft. It's a great place to build. The Jags, I think they go either Liam Cohen or Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, I'm obviously going to put him in a couple teams. I'm obviously going to put him for a couple teams. I think Ben Johnson just works there. But I also think Liam Cohen really works there. I don't think Ben Johnson necessarily wants to go over there to Jacksonville. I think they kept Trent Baalke and stuff like that. It's kind of a shit show on the general manager side, and I think my guy Ben wants to avoid that. But I do think Liam Cohen is a really good coach for them. They have solidified defensive players and offensive players, and Liam Cohen is an offensive-minded head coach. So if he goes over there and gets him a good defensive coordinator, that's a team to reckon with, and they could be able to compete for the AFC South again like it was nothing. I don't know really how to judge Trevor Lawrence. I think he's far from the generational prospect we thought he was going to be coming out of Clemson. I think he's far from that. But maybe Liam Cohen can get the good out of him. He is 6'6", mobile, big arm talent. It's just decision making. It comes down to decision making with him. Excuse me. For the Raiders, I think they go either Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, or they go Kellen Moore, an offensive coordinator. Um, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what they really want over there. Rumor had it that Tom Brady actually was trying to get Bill Belichick out of UNC. You know, UNC gave him like 50 mil. He would have had to give him a lot, but he definitely tried to get him over there. I think Brian Flores is going to be a perfect coach for them. I like hard nosed guys. If you haven't noticed, I like no nonsense guys. Kellen Moore, I think it's better off as an offensive coordinator, but someone's gonna give Kellen Moore a shot, and I think it is gonna be I think the Raiders are potentially that landing spot for him. He could build a nice, fun offense over there. Even if they can't get their quarterback of the future, I think Aiden O'Connell can get you 8 to 9 wins, and you build off of that. You know, see if you can snag something up with a really, um, really deep quarterback class coming up. Um, my Saints, I think we could go either Aaron Glenn or Joe Brady. I would personally want Joe Brady more. Um, I think he'll be a fantastic NFL head coach. Not all coordinators are great head coaches, and especially not all offensive minded head coordinators turn out to be great head coaches. But I think Joe Brady is one of those guys that'll turn out to be really good. He has history with the Saints in Louisiana and in general. He used to work under Sean Payton. And the same can be said about, sorry, I keep peeking over to the side because I'm actually watching Penn State. Notre Dame is tied 10-10 right now with about 30 seconds to go in the third quarter. But yeah, back to the main topic. Aaron Glenn's, I think he's a cool, smooth guy. But I don't know if he's who I want leading my team. He just doesn't seem vocal enough. Maybe because that's Dan Campbell is so vocal and out there. Neither Ben nor Aaron seemed very vocal and loud and like energetic. That's what I kind of want for the Saints. Not to say that Joe Brady's the most energetic and loud and thought out guy, but look how he helped slim down Josh Allen's interceptions and turnovers in general. I think Spencer Rattler is a guy that could potential. Oh, I got a little smoke on me. I think Spencer Rattler is a guy who could potentially deal with turnover problems, and Joe Brady could definitely help that. I just think what blocks him from coming to us is our cap situation and overall roster in general. I think I'm going with Joe Brady. I'm like just shooting for the stars there. I ultimately think that we do make an Aaron Glenn hire. Um, the Jets, known to be a defensive team like throughout history. So I do believe they'll look at either Brian Flores or Aaron Glenn. Two hot guys. Pause. Two hot guys on the coaching carousel. Brian Flores needs a head coaching position. He's perfect for what I look for in a coach. Don't know how he'll handle offense, but he schemes up some great defenses. The Bengals, like I said, I don't 100% know if they'll fire their head coach, Zach. Zach Taylor. I always call him Zach Robinson for some reason. I have no clue who Zach Robinson. Maybe I always get him mixed up. I don't know why, but Zach Taylor may be gone for the Bengals. Seems like he's lost a bit of the locker room, which is sad to say because this is such a great team, and it'll be a disaster to get fired from a situation like this where you have a top 3 to 4 quarterback and you have a top 2 receiver with another top 15 top 10 almost receiver. It's hard to lose out on, but hey, and Chase Brown's going to break out next year too. Watch out for a 1,300 yard, not 1,200, 1,300 all-purpose yards from Chase Brown next year. But if that becomes available, I think Ben Johnson sprints to Cincinnati. All right, yeah. So, like I said, I wrote it down so I can have everything right for y'all that I wanted to speak about. Let's talk a little bit about Saquon and Derrick Henry seasons. Have we ever? We probably have, but not to my memory. Do I remember having a 2 running backs dominate the way that they did? Derrick Henry had about 40 less carries than this game is a really good game. Notre Dame is walking these boys down. Derrick Henry, I know Saquon rushed for 2,000, man, but Derrick Henry has a really strong case for Offensive Player of the Year. He also rushed for 1,911 yards, 16, 17, 18, something crazy on the ground touchdown wise. Like the dude was phenomenal. He was phenomenal, and he got those numbers. Even though some games you thought he was quiet, but at the end of the game, you look and he ran for 125. Averaged about 5.8 yards per carry. Saquon 345 yards, about 2,005 yards or so like that. I just think playing with Jalen Hurts hurt his touchdown totals. I think he would have had 17 touchdowns or something like that if he didn't play with the quarterback that does the tush push or whatever. Those guys had some great years, and it's just really good. I wanted to speak on Saquon and Derrick Henry specifically, and also really running backs that switched teams this year in general just had really, really good years. This was a good year for running backs. Running backs are back, baby. James Conner, Bucky Irvin. There are guys all over the league. Chuba Hubbard. Aaron Jones is 30 years old and still chugging and going. The running back position might be back. And I hope that it is because it's cool to see quarterbacks do the things that they do, but it's always just as cool to see a running back get a tough, like this dude's, man, running through people, getting a tough 10, 15 yard carry, running through guys and stuff like that. Running backs might be back, man. And hopefully Christian McCaffrey can get back how he was. Being used as much doesn't hurt Saquon or Derek's future, because Derek is getting a little bit on the older side, but both teams have good to good enough. Well, I say the Eagles have a really good O line, whereas the Ravens their O line struggled a bit in the beginning, so they have a good enough O line. The running back stood out a lot this year, but also this was just good numbers. This was just a season. Excuse me. This was just a season that was good for numbers and statistics. Like, a lot of guys put up really big numbers this year, man. A player I was really disappointed in was specifically Jordan Love, man. What is it? Is he good or is he not? Like, somebody please let me know. Is Jordan Love good or not? Because last year he went on that huge stretch where he was just balling. He nearly dragged that Packers team, whose wide receiver room is vastly overrated. I don't like neither one of those guys as a wide receiver one, so I think they should be targeting the wide receiver this offseason, by the way. I don't know, man. I don't know that guy. That guy, the one that's playing this year, I don't know that guy. The one last year, I knew that guy, and I was really good friends with him, CJ Stroud, super disappointing. Anthony, you know what? The AFC South as a whole was nothing but disappointment. Those are four not so great teams. One overachieved. The Texans, they were lucky enough to play who they played this year because that team didn't look good. Albeit, CJ Stroud lost a couple of his he lost all three of his starting wide receivers for an extended period of time this year. So I can't 100% blame it on it, but man, that team's offensive line, they need real help. Hopefully they can bounce back and be good next year. But as far as Anthony Richardson goes on the Colts, learn blocking and receiving, my boy. Go be a tight end. Go be a tight end, bro. For real. You about 6'5", 250, 6'4", 6'5", 250. You can move the way you move, bro. Go be a tight end or something. Need some Crystal Light. Yeah. Anthony Richardson isn't a good quarterback. He's abysmal. He's terrible. I could go out there and complete less than 50% of my passes every game. I could do that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not a really big fan of Anthony Richardson, man. Not at all. I'm not a really big fan of Trevor Lawrence whatsoever. I've never really been the hugest fan of Trevor Lawrence. I like the fact that he has some get up and stuff like that, but nah. Then the Tennessee Titans are starting Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. Like, I didn't expect them to be, a 14-win team, but at the same time, they spent the most guaranteed money in the 2024 offseason. So they spent the most money. So what does that say about those guys? Does that say more so about Will Levis and Mason Rudolph? Can a quarterback come in there and succeed? I would like them to go over there and get Shadur Sanders over Cam Ward, because I feel like Cam Ward is more of a project. And at this stage, you don't want a project over there. You spent all that money in the offseason. You don't have time for Cam to go through the growing pains of becoming a lot more accurate and things like that as a quarterback. I think Shadur comes in and his ceiling is close to like a Joe Burrow. I won't say his ceiling is Joe Burrow, but his play style could be a lot closer to like a Joe Burrow, where he's efficient, He gets the ball out quick, and he does what he needs to do. He can use his legs, but he's not leaning on his legs. Whereas Cam Ward, I really who's a good comparison for him, you know? I'm trying to think who's a mobile, big arm guy. You know, Josh Allen comes to mind, but I guess I said Joe Burrow for Shadur. And I also said that he doesn't have to 100% be Joe Burrow because he's not as good. But do I really want to compare Cam Ward to Josh Allen? You know, Josh Allen is, man. I think that's who you would envision. You know, a mobile, big arm quarterback who doesn't have the greatest accuracy, but he can make some of those throws that you're like, whoa. You know, he has a lot of potential coming out. Maybe you do go with the Cam Ward, you know? But maybe you go with this Joe Burrow, who that first year, he's going to throw 20 touchdowns and 7 picks. But that next year, the year's coming, he's going to start gaining more control of the offense, and he's able to show what he can do. He can really lead these guys. No, I don't think either one is a bad choice at all. I don't think they're the greatest quarterbacks. I don't think either of them are in any other draft that they'll be top 10, top 15 picks. But they've shown enough over the years that they're going to be pretty good in the NFL. I just think with a team that's a little bit older, not crazy old, not to say they're like crazy old. My fingers are red. Not to say that they're crazy old, but a team with a lot more experience on it. Yeah, I think this season was really interesting, man. Like I said, you got Jaden Daniels going out there balling the way he did. Bo Nix, both of those guys leading their team to the playoffs. Brock Bowers looking like he's going to be a perennial all-pro tight end, you know. Setting records, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, even though you get on Twitter and you'll think, if you got on Twitter, you think Marvin Harrison had a terrible year, but him and his quarterback didn't have the greatest chemistry, and I don't think Kyler Murray's a great quarterback in the first place, so don't judge him off him not getting 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns. The guy still had a great year, and you think he didn't get the ball whatsoever. You know, he still caught 60 balls for about 880 yards and a few touchdowns out there. About 6 touchdowns? I don't like to give you guys misinformation. I don't like to give you guys misinformation. It was actually 8 touchdowns. So he nearly had 65 catches for 900 yards and 10 touchdowns. How's that a bad year? Stop talking sports on Twitter. Like, for real. Twitter is the worst for talking sports. It's just a lot of kids and people that are looking just to say stupid shit for clicks and reactions because you can get paid on there. Twitter's not the place to talk sports whatsoever. Marvin Harrison was great this year. Brian Thomas Jr., my God, was he great this year. 6'4", do-it-all receiver. He can stretch the field. He's fast as hell. He's what they thought Terrace Marshall Jr. could have been, or Xavier Legette. Those types of receivers. He's bona fide, man. He's in like that Julio mode. I haven't heard anyone compare him to Julio at all, but he's in that same mode where he's like, what do we do? Like, I don't think he's as freakishly athletic as like an Calvin Johnson, who was similar, not even similar size, because Calvin Johnson was like 245 pounds or so, you know. But I think Brian Thomas Jr., a great comparison for him would definitely be like a Julio Jones at his peak. Malik Neighbors like an AB or something like that, you know. A guy that I was just looking into here, who finally broke out and had a really good year. Drake London, man. Drake London finished as one of those guys this year, and there was some quarterback BS going over there going on over there in Atlanta. He's had the best season. This 1 year that he's had was the best year out of all three of all four. Him, Garrett, Chris Olave, and Jameson Williams. He just had the best season. 1,200 yards and nearly 1,300 yards and almost 10 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns to go to be exact. That's a fantastic fucking season, man. Um, Speaking of Garrett Wilson, the Jets, the Jets, uh, they were terrible. They were shit. Um, they didn't even get a good enough draft pick where they could replace the plundering, Aaron Rodgers, the terrible, the ugh, you know, they didn't even have a good enough draft pick to finish top 2 or 3 and get one of those good guys that's coming out of this draft. Um, I don't think Sam Darnold's gonna want to come back over there. I don't know, man. That team is bad, man. You got Garrett Wilson, you got Jermaine Johnson, you got the big guy in the middle. Um, got Sauce Gardner. Is DJ Reed coming back? I'm not 100% sure. You got some pieces. You got Brees Hall, man. You got some pieces over there. But after Garrett Wilson, that wide receiver room, Devontae Adams is obviously not coming back. The one guy, Aaron Rodgers brought over there. He's not coming back. Can't remember his name right now. He's not too important, but you guys know who I'm talking about. There's some crazy Jets fan or Packer fan that'll know exactly who I'm talking about. Then you got Malachi Corley, who infamously dropped the touchdown right before he went into the end zone. Man, the Jets were very disappointing. Um, I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. Aaron Rodgers, I think I pray that he just retires and he doesn't get another huge oh, speaking of huge, there was just a huge pick right there. Huge pick for Penn State. I'm a huge Drew Aller guy. So yeah, let's go Penn State. Let's go Nittany Lions. I love Drew Aller. 6'5", decently mobile. He's not the fastest, but he'll get out there. Man, I'm a huge Drew fan. But Drew Brees is my favorite quarterback, so maybe Drew Aller can come. I haven't seen another Drew in as a QB, so maybe he can come fulfill that. Yeah, though, man, the Jets were just one of the most disappointing teams in the league. You got the Cowboys again. We got the Colts. We got the Texans, man. The Jaguars, Titans. Man, there were so many disappointing teams. The Saints, we started out 2-0 and finished with 5 wins. How does that happen? Went on a 7-game losing streak in the middle of the season. The Bears, don't even get me started on Caleb Williams, man. I've never been a huge Caleb Williams guy, and I know people act like it's because of the nail polish stuff like that. But if you weren't a fan of this team, you guys wouldn't have the bias you do have. He's just not a likable guy. Like, unless he starts balling, I don't know. He has to start winning and winning me over. Pause for him to be a more likable guy for me. Um, that Bears offense as a whole is just not it. Again, I'll speak on Kyler Murray. I don't think Kyler Murray needs to be the starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. He's just not it. Has a rocket arm. Has a rocket arm. He can do a lot of things, and he's just not tall enough. He's like 5'10", man. It's hard to see over those 6'5", 6'4", 6'6", 6'7", also offensive guards and linemen, man. Like linemen in general. It's just hard to see that. He's just too little. He's just too little. You have to be really, really good to succeed at that size. And although I think Kyler is good, I don't think he's really, really good. I think he's good. There's no way you throw, you know, there's no way you have some of the seasons he's had in the past and be the number 1 pick and be the number 9 pick in the baseball draft and not be as athletic and good at what you do as people say. He's a great player, man. Um, he's just disappointing. He's just not it. Let me see his exact numbers this year. They might, you know, you look at his numbers, they don't pop off at you, but they're also not like the worst numbers in the world, you know? 3,800 yards, 21 touchdowns, 11. Like I said, it doesn't pop off at you, but at the same time, it doesn't like say, "Oh, great quarterback," you know. But it was a good year. He's not a bad quarterback. He's just not the greatest. Um, Speaking of quarterbacks, Bryce Young, man, how about it, right? I'm a Saints fan, and oh wow, Notre Dame just got a pick in the end zone, but pass interference, defensive pass interference. Damn. Um, let's see. No, that's definitely pass interference. That's 100% pass interference. Excuse me. Um, yeah, though, man, Bryce Young had a really good end to his season, man. He was like tied for first and big time throws from like week 10 on. He was really good, man. Um, Hopefully he can come out next year and keep. He's confident. You could tell. You can see he's going out and doing all types of things. You could just see he's a lot more confident than he was in his first year. In the beginning of this second year, he's a lot more confident, man. And I like to see that for the guy. I felt bad for him, but he has another case of what Kyler Murray has, which is just can't see over the line like that. That's not to say these guys can't succeed. You just can't expect crazy years out of these types of guys where they're really short. Drew Brees, he kind of killed that narrative, but everybody's not Drew Brees. Russell Wilson had a lot of good years, but everyone's not Russell Wilson. So maybe one of those two guys can become, close to what those guys were, but it's hard to envision that. Um, yeah. Did I talk about CJ Stroud? Yeah, I did. I said I kind of forgave them because of how many injuries they suffered on offense and how bad that offensive line was. So yeah, let's talk about these playoffs then, right? That's what everybody's here for. Talk about the playoffs. I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of uh I'll just go first round wild card games because then you'll get the seeding that way. Obviously the number one seed in each conference, the NFC, the Lions, and the AFC, the Chiefs. Neither one of them have a wild card game. They get the bye week. But for the NFC, we have the number two seed Eagles going, well, playing host to the number seven seed Packers. The number three seed Bucks are going to be hosting the Commanders, which I think will be a fire game. The number four seed Rams will be hosting the number five seed Vikings, which I think will be another phenomenal game. I think all three of those games are going to be big. I think the Packers might put up a fight. They do that thing where they get their ass kicked and then make it a game in the last 3 minutes or so. I think that could be a possibility for that game. Um, for the AFC, we have again the Chiefs are the number one seed. The number two seed Bills are going to be playing the number seven seed Broncos. The number three seed Rams will be playing the number six seed Steelers, and the number four seed Texans will be playing the Chargers. Um, I do have a couple potential upsets. Um, well, I think there's a lot of potential for upsets. Uh, um, and another question I had was, can the Lions survive all of the injuries that they've taken? Like seriously, we've seen them play teams, and you could tell like if that was the Eagles, they would have killed the motherfucking Lions. They would have killed them Lions. Like it's just a lot going on with that defense. And although that's a team with a lot of chemistry and they play together, sometimes talent beats that shit. Beats that shit. You know. Um, I have two things here. I have first my predictions. Well, no, first I'll give you my power rankings for the playoffs. I power ranked each team from 14 to 1. And I also have like who I think will win each game. Um so for the power rankings, actually I'll go from 14 to 1. Yeah, I'll go from 14 to 1. At 14th I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't believe in Russell Wilson. I'm not a Russell Wilson guy. Um and if George Pickens doesn't show up, that offense is even worse. Um, I don't know where that team goes forward at quarterback from here, but hey, maybe they sign Sam Darnold. The Texans I have at 13th. They're just not healthy, man. They have too bad of an O line. I think the Chargers kicked their ass in that, surprise. But I think the Chargers get them in that first playoff game. I mean, yeah, the first playoff game in the wild card round. At 12, I have the Packers. I think they're pretenders more than they're contenders. I don't like their wide receiver room, and their wide receiver room is oft injured. Um, at 11, I had the Broncos. I think they have a little potential for an upset. Uh, Sean Payton is a genius, an offensive genius. Just watch out, Buffalo. Although I do think Buffalo wins, just watch out. At 10, I have the Bucks. Um, that defense is horrible, and Baker will throw some picks. So they have a really good running game. Mike Evans is really their only receiver. I don't know, and Marshawn's known to take him out of games, and that's who they pick first round. So play first round. So, I have the Commanders at ninth. Um, Although they have a really young quarterback, kind of young team in general, I think those guys are ballers. At 8, I have the Rams. I fought between them and the Commanders. I really just can't have too many people in the playoffs over Matthew Stafford. He's top 7 or 8 quarterback still, even though his numbers this year weren't the greatest. He's amazing. At 7, I had the Chargers. I think adding a little more talent this off season or the off seasons coming up, these guys will be really really good. Justin Herbert can get back to 4,000 yards, 30 plus touchdowns. Um, the Vikings, I have them at 6. Let's see if they're pretenders. Um, but they won 14 games in the regular season, but that doesn't always mean they're the team to beat. Obviously, because you have one more 14-win team, and you have two 15-win teams. And that 15-win team you lost to in the final game of your regular season, and they're not even at full strength. So we'll see. I have the Lions at 5. Controversial, very controversial, but that defense, man, that defense scares the shit out of me, dude. I'm gonna be honest. That defense scares the hell out of me. Something, something, something isn't 100% with that defense, man. And you can't outscore everybody. At 4, I have the Eagles. I think I might be low on them, but I kind of have a little more bias towards the other two teams. But I think the Eagles are potentially 1 or 2 also. I think these top 4 teams, you kind of can, except one. For some reason, I think the Bills are strictly at 3 right there for me. I have, like I said, I had the Eagles at 4. I got the Bills at 3. Um, they, you know, sometimes they're tempted to have a bad game. Sometimes they just have the tendency to have a really bad game and lose for no reason. Although Josh does typically play really good in the playoffs, he scares me a little bit. History says that he's a good playoff performer. So don't take my word. It's just sometimes you get that itch, like maybe they lose first round to the Broncos. I don't know. I have the Ravens at 2. This is a really good team to me. Ever since that defense turned around, man, and they can beat you in a plethora of ways. They can beat you on the ground, and they can really beat you through the air. Even though Zay Flowers don't know how healthy he's gonna be for the playoffs, that does scare me. Um, I think this is a really well-oiled machine, and I think they'll do big things. I got the Chiefs at 1. Just can't go against them. You can't go against Pat Mahomes. You can't go against him, man. That's stupid. I'm not gonna do it, and I'm not gonna be the dummy to be like, oh yeah, freaking, you know. All right, so for the wild card round, I have just written down um everyone that I think will win. So on the NFC side, we'll start out with them. Um, I do think Minnesota pulls through against the Rams. I think Minnesota wins that game. I think Washington beats Tampa Bay. And I also think Philadelphia beats Green Bay. That's the first. That's the NFC's wild card. For the AFC, I do think the Chargers wallop the Texans. I think Baltimore advances against Pittsburgh, and I think Buffalo also advances against Denver, even though that game kind of scares me a little bit. So, with how the playoffs work, didn't they say that dude wasn't going to hurdle nobody this week? I'm pretty sure that's the dude that they said isn't supposed to hurdle anybody because he's had a bad injury. He just hurdled and it was a good hurdle. With how the playoffs work, so the 1 seed got that first round bye. Now they'll play the lowest seed that won. So Detroit will match up against Washington. I think Detroit obviously pulls that off unless Washington can pull a miracle off, which isn't 100% like it's not like that couldn't be. Oh God, he put the he said he juked that boy. But I think Detroit pulls that off against Washington. I don't think that'll be like Washington gets their asses kicked either. I think that game goes late. Like you really don't know until about the third, fourth quarter. I do think Philadelphia wins against Minnesota. I think Philly's just a lot better than Minnesota. Um, I do think Kansas City beats the Chargers, and that's another game that could be like I don't know. The Chargers are playing really well this year. Kansas City's not playing as well. Jim Harbaugh versus Andy Reid. I can't say the Chiefs aren't playing as well, but they just aren't winning in normal Chief fashion. I do think Baltimore beats Buffalo. I think Baltimore beat the shit out of Buffalo in the regular season. Although I think Buffalo's been a lot better since then. I don't know. I don't know. I think a determining factor in this game is just like I said, the Ravens can beat you in so many different ways, and although the Buffalo Bills can as well, I don't know. I think it comes down to quarterback versus quarterback. With Josh, I'll play Lamar. With Lamar, I'll play Josh. That's what it's gonna come down to. Yeah, I think those two. I think Baltimore pulls that out. So it will be a Baltimore Philadelphia Super Bowl, and I got Baltimore winning. I got Baltimore winning, man. I want Baltimore to win so bad. I really want Baltimore to win a lot. Yeah. I think Baltimore wins a lot. I mean, I want Baltimore to win a lot, man. I know they've taken some bad losses to the Raiders and the Cleveland Browns this year, but man, I hope those guys pull it out. I think Lamar is gonna win Super Bowl MVP. Even if he doesn't, I think Derrick Henry has a really strong case if they make it there. Um, man, I want to see Baltimore win and pull it off. This would be a really really good game. Two teams that play kind of similar, apart from their wide receiver room being Philadelphia's is so much better. I just think Jalen Hurts isn't on the same planet as Lamar, and I think that's what it'll come down to. Even though that Philadelphia defense is probably a notch higher than Baltimore's. Um, yeah. I'll get it back to you guys with another video after the first round of the playoffs is over. Thanks for sticking around this long, man. Peace. Yo, just before I was about to upload, I remembered that I didn't talk to you guys about who I would think will win each award, you know. MVP, I do have, who do you think? Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar is my favorite player in the league, so I have some bias towards him, even though if you go through my tweets, I was telling Mod earlier this year that Josh Allen might be better than Lamar. But I do think Lamar has had too great of a season. Throwing for 4,000 yards, rushing for almost 900 yards, throwing for 40 touchdowns, throwing less than 4 picks. I mean, less than 5 picks. And if you go look at a lot of the picks, maybe one of them was really his fault. The others bounced off his receiver's hands. So dude was just fucking crazy this year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I would give that to Jaden Daniels, even though I think Bo Nix had an amazing year. You just didn't win 12 games and do the things on the ground that Jaden did. But yeah, I think those two guys were amazing. I think Jaden just pulls ahead of them slightly. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I have Jared Verse. I think Cooper DeJean has a really big case for it, but I think he came on a little bit too late, and Jared Verse just plays a more premier position. The sack numbers don't look amazing, but you go look at his pressure rate and the amount of pressures he caused, and you'll see why. Coach of the Year, I think you got to go with Dan Campbell. Kevin O'Connell had a great year. Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni. A bunch of guys had, something to say about the award, but you can't beat out a 15-2 Lions season. Shout out to Detroit. I'm actually going to be going to Detroit tomorrow. And comeback player of the year, I think you give it to Joe Burrow because I don't think Sam Darnold can win it just because he was bad last year. And it's not a most improved, it's a comeback player of the year. And my guy, Joe Burrow, was definitely injured last year, so I think that award goes to him. Thanks, guys, again for watching. Thanks for sticking all the way through. Have a good rest of your night.